someone I respect, posted a video this week that I can't stop thinking about. He's David Shapiro, someone who has written seriously about post-labor economics, about what happens when AI changes the nature of work. His argument, AI is on a super exponential growth curve. Investment is going up exponentially. Hardware is improving exponentially. The endpoint is cognitive hyperabundance. And when that arrives, the value of human intellectual contribution drops to zero. I want to engage with this seriously because he's not wrong about the disruption, but I think he's wrong about what actually matters.
The thinking man. I am a knowledge worker and a problem solver. Even today, AI already does most of the heavy lifting for all of my intellectual work. It takes very little imagination to conceive of what happens next. The value of my intellectual contribution drops to zero.
Here's the hidden assumption in that argument. He's treating knowing as the bottleneck. It never was. In 1847, a Hungarian physician named Ignaz Semmelweis figured out that hand-washing prevented deaths in maternity wards. He had the data. He was right. The mortality rate on his ward dropped from 18% to under 2% when doctors washed their hands. He could not get the medical establishment to change their behavior. Thousands of women died in Viennese maternity wards while he had the answer. He died in an asylum, in part from the stress of being ignored. The knowing was not the bottleneck. The communication was the bottleneck. Getting the right person to update their model of the world through a channel they trust at a moment when they're ready to hear it. That's what actually moves things.
Sure, we can cope with platitudes like, yes, but you still get to choose which problems to solve, or there's no replacement for human taste. And those are indeed copes. I've written at length about the macroeconomic reality we are facing, but the subjective reality is somewhat different. When machines are better, faster, cheaper, and safer than humans, your ability to contribute drops precipitously. Many times. How many good novels are possible to write? I won't bore you to death with the math, but the number of viable novels in English alone is absurdly astronomical. The number usually falls somewhere between 10 to the 100th power and 10 to the 150,000th power. Novels are possible to write depending on how you estimate it. For reference, there are only 10 to the 80 atoms in the entire universe. And even if we turned the entire cosmos into computronium, we could only ever generate and record an infinitesimal fraction.
He uses that calculation as consolation. At least creative work is safe, he says. He's reading it backwards. The space of possible novels is larger than the number of atoms in the observable universe. That's not a comfort. That's a mandate. AI expanding the tools for creative work doesn't shrink that frontier. It opens more of it. Every new capability is a new way to explore a space that cannot be exhausted. He's standing at the edge of an infinite horizon and calling it an ending. In a world of cognitive hyperabundance, the scarcest thing becomes curation, taste, and the specific human perspective that makes any of it matter. That doesn't go to zero. It compounds.
And I don't think it's an accident that the emotional flashback is to that of childhood. We are all powerless over the global currents that are pulling us along. I can no more influence the US and China race for AI dominance than I can stop the wind and tides. At the highest order, that singular competition is going to drive everything for the foreseeable future, and it is going to dramatically reshape every life on Earth. All we can do is hold on tight and do the best we can to steer.
Here's what strikes me most. He ends by saying, all we can do is hold on tight and do the best we can to steer, but he's been steering this whole time. The post-labor economics work is steering. Naming Vesperance, that wistful nostalgia for the now, is steering. The video itself is steering. He is the specific person whose specific audience trusts him enough to update their model of the world. That is not a cognitive function. AI getting better at analysis doesn't touch it. Galois wrote down the foundations of group theory the night before a duel in 1832. The knowing was instant. Getting it understood took 40 years. The problem was never the knowing. It was always the getting through. That's the job. And it's the one job that doesn't go to zero.